He was a big man. Identical twins with my uncle, Jim. They were both 6'5", 210 pounds, and began climbing at quite a young age through the Boy Scouts and then guiding on Rainier and continued to climb their whole lives. My uncle was the first American to climb Mount Everest, and my father, about the same time, started RMI Expeditions, which is the guide service on Mount Rainier. And so for me, I was born into this mountaineering family, climbing and skiing since I can remember. We live just 6 miles outside of Mountaineer National Park, so we're fortunate and have this amazing mountain as our backyard. And it's where I cut my teeth. And primarily because of my father taking me out there and teaching me skiing and climbing. 250 times. He first started, I think it was I think he was 16 when he first climbed and finished, yeah, with 250 climbs. So spent an awful lot of time on Rainier. I think, yeah, he was an amazing climber, but also an instructor and a teacher and really a good mountain guide. And I know a lot of his joy came from introducing people to the mountains, taking them above tree line and on glaciers into places where they had never been before. He that was gave him a lot of satisfaction. Since so for the last 54 years, he started the company Rainier Mountaineering Inc., but we've guided over 100,000 people on Mount Rainier alone. So but he was an avid skier. He skied till he was 89, which is pretty cool. Um, and continued climbing on Rainier right up through his late 60s. And also internationally, he led the first American ascent of Mount Everest on the north side through Tibet and China in 1984. He led the first American ascent of the third highest mountain in the world, which is Kanchenjunga. That was in 1989. He, along with my uncle, ended up leading the first American expedition on K2. So, really, the three highest mountains in the world and the first successful American expeditions were led by those two guys. So, uh, big footsteps to fill and quite a family to grow up in. Well, he was a storyteller for sure, and lots and lots of stories. I think one of the things that he liked to talk about were the stories that had happy endings. And in the mountains, unfortunately, oftentimes you hear about the stories that do not have the happy endings. And he saved many, many people up on Mount Rainier and was involved in many rescues. And he enjoyed telling those stories. But I think, as I mentioned, the other thing that gave him the most satisfaction was being that portal or that entrance and being helpful to share his experience and knowledge of the mountains with general people and people that would never really had never seen the inside of a crevasse 60 feet down, had never been on a glacier before, or in a blizzard with 80-mile-an-hour winds and survived to talk about it. So he was an amazing climber, but a lover of people and really enjoyed taking people up into the environment that he was comfortable in. Yeah, no, we it's been, obviously a tough time here the last week or so with the family, but um, so many people have reached out. He touched so many people and a lot of support, which is amazing. And we had many sayings. I'll share a few of those. He wanted, one of them was before he died, he wanted to know what it was to really live. And he did do that. He lived to be 95 years old. Another thing he liked to talk about was putting deposits in the bank of health. And he felt that when you're young, by climbing or running or being cardiovascular or doing hard things, that you're actually putting deposits into your personal bank of health. And then later in life, at some point, you would begin to make withdrawals and you would live off how you lived earlier in life. And I love his look at that. And I think it's part of the reason he lived to be 95. And he, for the last couple decades, said, well, I'm taking withdrawals now. But fortunately, I was busy making lots of deposits as a youngster. You know, many things, but I think I'll try and hit a couple of the big ones. He built his wife Ingrid and my father built an underground home, passive solar, 40 years ago, and lived in it. I can remember him carrying a big aluminum dish on his backpack up to Camp Muir and created one of the first solar water melt systems up high. So he was always very uh, uh, respectful of the mountains, respectful of the earth, and he liked participating and enjoying, but also helping to contribute and ensure that the wild places stayed wild. And on top of that, once again, this people element. I mean, he would walk into a room and he would just command it. Crazy stories, big mountain man, and compassion for people. And climbing a mountain, I describe it as long-term, low-level suffering. It's not very much fun, and it's not for everyone. And yet, he was a master at bringing people up and helping them do hard things and maybe push a little bit harder than they normally would and have an experience that was unique and special and that not a lot of people could deliver the way he was able to. And I think that's the thing. You would always ask our new guides, do you like to climb? And they'd say, yeah, I love to climb, love to climb. And his next question was, do you like people? And that's kind of a hard, well, that's kind of, yeah, kind of like people. I mean, a little bit. You like them well enough to be tied to them in dangerous places. And that's a big part of mountain guiding is really having a love for people and empathy and patience. And he did all of that very well. Sure. And even from a personal aspect. So I've been involved in four avalanches where people have been killed or hurt badly. And my first one, believe it or not, was with my father. I was 17 years old, and we were caught in an avalanche on the backside of Muir Peak on Mount Rainier and slid about 1,000 feet. I broke an ankle. He dislocated his shoulder. Fortunately, no one was killed, and we all survived. But that at a very young age, even though my father was this amazing mountain climber and experienced, I was uncomfortable on the slope and didn't want to be there. And if it had been me making the decision, I wouldn't have, but it was him. And I just said, well, he knows what he's doing. And it taught me at a very young age to never trust anyone, including your father, who's supposedly so experienced. But we survived that one. Um, he was involved in many, not just recoveries, but rescues, going up into bad weather, pushing it, not giving up, and literally saving lives, which was um, he was very proud of, and it was yeah, it was just something that he was committed to. He wouldn't stop. He would hang in there and go above and beyond what was required at the time if there were lives at risk. I do. So my father climbed it 250 times. I've climbed it 256 times. Not that it's a competition and we're competing. Um, and I first climbed when I was 12 years old, and I've been guiding on Mount Rainier for the last 5 decades. So I continue to climb. I run the business along with my brother Win and a couple other partners that he started 54 years ago. And yeah, I'm super fortunate to have grown up in this amazing family and continue to guide and climb and enjoy the mountains still today. No, I just think he was an inspiration, obviously to me, and kind of this amazing father figure. I could never fill his size 13 shoes, um, and or boots, I should say. It's sad. Obviously, we're, going through a tough time, and he was kind of one of a kind. His twin brother is still living, Jim, which is great. But those two, you know, were big mountain men and shared so much with so many. Just very inspirational. So, no, I think we covered most of it. There's a lot more, but um, we're just happy that he had a 95-year run. And even these last few weeks, he was like, Pete, I can't believe that I'm still alive after all this stuff that I've done. And he had a long, rich life. And literally, as he wanted to, warmed both hands before the fire, um, and lived it fully. They started in the Boy Scouts at a young age. They had asthma, and their doctor recommended they get up high above all of the atmosphere and particulates and everything. And then began doing a little guiding on Rainier, became very involved with mountain rescue. They both were involved with the 10th Mountain Division, training troops, winter survival skills in Colorado. And so, yeah, just mountains were, he was wrapped completely around him, and they guided his life, and he spent most of it up there in them, which is great. He was a big man and a great inspiration and will continue to be for many, many people.